PlayStation Access Controller versus Xbox Adaptive Controller. Which is better?
You can't ask that question because they're two separate devices.
I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and if you're wondering what it is I actually can see and how I play video games, make sure you're able to check out the video here or click in the link in the description down below. Also, while you're down there, click the like and subscribe buttons, and including a link to my Patreon if you want to help support me and more of my accessibility work. Make sure to go to patreon.com/Steve Saylor. So yes, this video is about this guy, the PlayStation Access Controller. Now, if you checked out my unboxing video, which you can check out here, I mentioned that essentially this controller is not designed for someone like myself with my disability. So I put up the bat signal and I reached out to a few of my friends who are reviewing the Access controller, and I wanted to get their opinions on the controller itself, what they're going to be giving as far as their review, as well as talk about the comparisons between the Xbox Adaptive Controller and the PlayStation Access Controller. Which is better? We're going to find out. So let's jump into the conversation with myself and Grant Stoner, who's reviewing the Access controller for IGN, Dynamic Reacts, who is reviewing it for GameSpot, and Twitch streamer Hello, it's Kolo as well. Let's jump into that conversation. All right, so I have, like I said, three amazing, wonderful, absolutely talented, and absolutely gorgeous people to talk about the Access controller today, and I am so excited to be able to chat with them. So first off, I want to introduce them, or I'll let them introduce themselves and kind of what their sort of setup is like. Grant, we'll start off with you. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then also who you're covering this for?
Hi, I'm Grant. I'm an accessibility journalist focusing on accessible initiatives and the disabled perspective in games. And I'm writing the review for IGN for the Access controller.
Cool. All right. So, and we also have Kennedy. Why don't you introduce yourself and where you're writing from?
Hi everyone, I'm Dynamic Reactions. I'm an accessibility advocate, YouTuber, Twitch streamer, and I'm also reviewing the Access controller for GameSpot. So, yeah.
Covering all the bases today. And then, amazing, from all the way across the pond, we thank you so much for joining us this late in the day. Kolo, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kolo. I stream under the name Hello, it's Kolo. You can find me under the same name everywhere. Hello, it's Kolo. I am a Twitch streamer, a YouTuber, an accessibility advocate, and I'll be reviewing and getting to know, live streaming the process of learning the PlayStation Access controller live on stream later this month.
Cool. All right, so let's get started with kind of like our individual thoughts on using the Access controller. I want to start with you, Kolo, because you have a very unique setup in your and sort of your own streams, because you use the adaptive controller and basically like a foot setup, correct?
My primary problem, I have a form of spondyloarthritis that affects. It affects my back, it affects my ability to weight bear on my right leg. But with my hands, and when it comes to gaming, it primarily affects my ability to grip, to hold down buttons, to button mash, quick time actions, that kind of stuff. And holding down multiple buttons at the same time. So gripping onto a mouse for a long period of time or gripping onto a controller is just not accessible for me. So I play games partially with my feet. I use a combination of the Xbox Adaptive Controller and a traditional controller. The traditional controller sits on my lap. Usually it's strapped to a board just to prevent me from instinctively gripping it, as I did play with a controller for many years before I became disabled. And then this is what it looks like under the desk. Please excuse all the wires, but I'll do my best to show.
It's a very clean wired setup, so you're all good.
And this is a pedal board. This is a like electric guitar pedal board, a really lightweight one, with Velcro mats on it. The Xbox Adaptive Controller is attached underneath. If I lift it up, there you go. You can see it underneath, and then the wires are all plugged in to come around the back. And I have a foot here and a foot here. and it effectively removes my need to grip a controller. So it takes care of the shoulder buttons, start, select, and I also have the buttons that you'd traditionally be pressing with your right thumb. I also have that on my feet, and I use a combination of my hands and feet to press them depending on what game I'm playing, what the needs are, and how I'm feeling as well. So that's been my setup for the last few years, really.
Cool. Kennedy, how about you? What is your typical sort of gaming setup like without an adaptive controller, or do you use an adaptive controller?
Before the access controller, I always found adaptive controllers a little overwhelming and I guess not easy to get used to the first time, because for me, with my disability, the less spread apart my fingers are, the better, because it's a dexterity issue. So if I could just use one hand or move my right hand as little as possible while I'm on the controller, that's great. And these controllers are great for that.
Grant, what is your typical setup like?
So I primarily play on PC, and I just use a standard keyboard and a Logitech mouse with buttons on the side. If I am playing on a console, I have a full Xbox adaptive setup with the Logitech switches and other third-party gear like joysticks. If I'm playing on my Switch, just the two Joy-Cons. I do have the 8-bit do controller that was designed for physically disabled players. I use that occasionally with more complex games, like 3D movement and such. It really depends on what game I'm playing and how many inputs are required for me to use an adaptive setup.
Okay, cool. So Kenny, I wanted to go to you first for this, because I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Access controller, because we chatted in my previous video when we were at the PlayStation event, and I kind of wanted to know that now you have it in your hands, it's in your own home setup. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the Access controller, which, by the way, you can be able to get her full thoughts on GameSpot.com once this goes up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the Access controller?
So I really like it. What really is a plus for me is the fact that I didn't have to worry about like going out and looking at like extra buttons or anything like that, because everything that I needed was right in the kit just to play with. As someone who doesn't use adaptive controllers on a regular basis, and just the way that it's circular and I'm able to move my fingers around and turn it whichever way I want to, that still holds up for me from the demo sessions that we did have. On stream for Halloween, we decided that we were going to do Little Nightmares. And I didn't have the Access controller at that point. And I was sitting there playing it and passing it back and forth with one of my mods. And I was like, this game would be really great with the Access controller. So I've actually been playing through Little Nightmares with it as a starter, just to like get used to it and see if it works really well. And it's been working really well for me.
Very cool. Kolo, so you were also at a PlayStation event earlier in the UK. And so you had a little bit of hands-on with this. So knowing that, like going back to your sort of experience from that, knowing that you're going to be reviewing this live on stream, when you used it at the event, what were some of your thoughts, and what did you like? What did you like? What did you not like? What were sort of your thoughts on using it for the first time?
I went into the event not sure how I'd be able to control it with my feet. I went into the event thinking, how would I be able to make this work? Like, how could I replicate what I have? And I think what surprised me most is I came out of it going, oh, this is a whole different option for me. Like, this is for me, this is not about replicating what I have. It actually gives me a whole different set of options. And I think very similarly to what Dynamic was saying there, like, it's really overwhelming finding all of the options for the Xbox Adaptive Controller. And like I've said this before in various different places, but I think if gaming wasn't my job, I'm not sure I would have done it. And that's really sad. Like, I hate that. I hate that I'm saying that, but that is the honest truth, because it was really overwhelming. I was very, very blessed to have a lot of help from Special Effect, the games accessibility charity who are in the UK. They helped me a lot to kind of navigate it. But one of the things that was really tricky is that the actual setup of it wasn't accessible to me. I now have a diagnosis and medication that works for me. But at the time, I wasn't able to set this up myself. I wasn't able to pull the pieces of strong Velcro away from, like, there was no way for me to do this. And I think that the other thing that really surprised me about the PlayStation Access controller is that I could do that. Like, I could do the setup. I can change the buttons on my own. I don't need somebody to come and help me with that. I can do that. And I'm not sure I thought it would be possible for me to play games just with my hands anymore. And now I actually think that I might be able to. And that is a real, excuse the pun, but that is a real game changer for me, because that means that on days where I have issues with my back and I can't sit upright, I can lay down and play a game in a way that I can't do with this current setup. I can switch buttons out, move things along. It can change with me, like, as my condition fluctuates. And the buttons are there, and it seems to me to be quite exciting, the idea that I might be able to play just using my hands. I'm not gonna lie, Steve, I'm having a bit of an identity crisis over it, because for years I've been going, I play games with my feet and my feelings in the driving seat, and now I'm like, oh my god, what do I say? Like, what if I don't use my feet? Like, and I know that's a strange thing to say, but like, I am genuinely having a bit of an identity crisis.
You know what? You're not wrong, because like there are times where like I've been asked like hey, who would you recommend for folks, you know, for certain things, and I say, well, Kolo, and then one of the things I say, like, I describe is like she played the entire Mass Effect trilogy with her feet. It's like, cause that's impressive to me, and I'm like, oh, now you're not going to be able to use your feet anymore. I mean, I'm certain that like, you know, there'll be a bit of a hybrid once you kind of get the, like, sort of get everything kind of set up as you're all like, as everything is all set up and ready to go. But yeah, that's cool that you were able to, like, you know, you're able to do that with without having to use your feet at all. That's pretty cool.
The biggest thing that it changes for me is that like the chance to actually get socializing in person with games back. If I can pick up the PlayStation Access controller, put it in my bag, and just take it to somebody else's house and then sit and like play a game with them and like store the profile on the, what? So yeah, so I think those were the things that I like took away from that initial event, and I'm really excited to kind of trial that and like see how far I can push it, see how well these controllers plural work together with me, and what's the limitation as well, what's my limitation, what's the limitation of this controller, and is this going to be something that I use in addition, like when I play a PlayStation game, or is this like something else? Like, I don't know. I'm excited.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Grant, what about you? What are your thoughts on the Access controller? Because the thing that we've had this, like, on my channel, there's many conversations that you and I've had together, and one of the things that you'd mentioned was you've never been able to play your PlayStation 5 at all. So has that changed? Can you now feel like you can play the PS5 for the first time? What are your thoughts on the Access controller?
So I can play my PlayStation 5 now, which is good. I've been playing Astro's Playroom, Shredder's Revenge, and Spider-Man 2. They're all very fun games. My issue with the Access controller, for me, it feels like it wasn't designed for people with limited reach or strength.
Okay.
So because of the circular design, there's 9 buttons that are available. And because of my hands and the way they atrophy and the way I can't really move my arms, I only have access to 3 of the buttons. So the other buttons I can't reach regardless of what caps I place on them or what position the controller is in, because it's a circle. So no matter which way I turn it or position it, it's the same barrier regardless. I can mitigate that issue with the ports. So by plugging in third-party switches and buttons. But the main issue is, yes, I can play it now, but I'm still missing access to roughly 5 or 4 buttons for any game.
Is that including the thumbstick as well, or is it just or how are you finding with the thumbstick on the controller?
The thumbstick's great. The thumbstick I'm very pleased with. It's just I'm consistently missing 5 buttons, even with the ports and the switches I use. So I can play it now, which is great. I'm very excited for that. Especially because I haven't been able to play any PlayStation games for years. All the accessible ports they've done. My only issue is I'm constantly needing to figure out what buttons I can sacrifice or what buttons aren't necessary.
So for you, for any PlayStation or specifically PS5 games that maybe that don't have, say, motor accessibility in mind, those games might be more. Well, will they be more difficult for you than games that do have extensive accessibility options, like Spider-Man or The Last of Us or God of War?
Yeah. Thankfully, a lot of first-party PlayStation games have extensive menus and options and designs. There's not really a fear, but for any third-party game, there's no point in me getting it on my PlayStation.
So it's getting there, but you're not actually at the full, like you have full range.
Yeah, it's a good first step. It's just not like, for people like me, it's not the best. For people like Kolo, it's amazing, which is great, but it also shows like the breadth of the disabled experience.
Yes.
So like, it's not a bad controller. It's just not the best for me.
That's fair. That's fair. So, like a dynamic you had mentioned before we started that you actually tried to be able to connect this to a PC. How was your experience with that?
So, I went through Steam, and as far as Steam could tell, when I hooked everything up and all that kinds of stuff, I mapped buttons, all of that. The buttons themselves, they work. It's the joystick that doesn't work.
PlayStation has not said that this is PC compatible in any of their official sort of communication about this. Where this is sort of like our experience of just trying it to see if it works. But it's good to know at least that there is some sort of connectivity there. Grant, going back to you, because your usual setup is specifically for PC and mouse and keyboard. Have you tried using the Access controller on PC? And if not, would you be able to use that for PC?
I have not used it because at this point a mouse and keyboard is more accessible than the controller. So I would just rather not use it on PC.
So you would basically like this would not like replace the keyboard for you or the mouse in any way.
Yeah, it would be more of a hassle for me to play with it on PC than just put my hand on my usual mouse and just go from there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I wanted to at least, get that PC question out there because that was something that was a common question I kept getting. So I wanted to at least, so it works. And one of the things we kind of postulated was the idea of maybe plugging in a joystick into one of the 3.5mm ports. None of us have tried that as of yet, so we'll see how that kind of goes. But at least there's some sort of connectivity. Just results may vary, as it were. Okay, so let's talk about obviously the kind of the. We obviously a few of you have have used the adaptive controller before, or from Xbox, and now that you're kind of using the PlayStation Access controller, what does the Access controller have that the Xbox adaptive controller say doesn't have? Grant, want to start with you because you've had a lot of experience trying to be able to like get every bunch of different.
Yeah. The Xbox adaptive controller, to me, isn't a controller. It's more of a centralized hub that you can fully customize with switches, joysticks, buttons, whatever you have that can work with it. And that's really good for customization. It's also really bad for, like, maybe overload, like, having to remember what button goes where, having to remember its placement, how it works. And also, it's a size issue. I love my setup, but it takes up basically the entire desktop that I have for
Mhm.
my computers. So because of my limited reach, I'm not able to fully reach every switch or button, even though I set it up that way. And so depending on which game I have, prioritize placing certain buttons closer to my hands, um, making sure they're easy to press and don't cause fatigue. With the access controller, it's a controller. Like you take it out of the box, you plug it in, you're good to go. You may not be able to use everything, because it only offers 9 buttons, and a traditional controller has 15, but it's far more ready to use than the Xbox adaptive controller is.
Gotcha.
I like that, and I prefer the compact size. Even though I can't reach every button, the buttons I can reach, plus the joystick, plus the varying switches that you can plug into the 3.5 millimeter ports, it's a lot easier for me to manipulate than my Xbox setup. So I prefer it through that. But also, it's difficult to really compare because one's the controller, one is more like a switchboard that you can customize.
Right. Kolo, you have a very extensive setup as you're showing already with the adaptive controller versus the Axis controller. What do you see as sort of like the main a difference between the two with regards to kind of like your own setup?
I think they're different options. I think that's the first thing that I want to say is that we've already said, all of us, like everybody's different. Everybody has different needs, even within the same diagnosis, and then the same like sub-diagnosis, and even within people who experience very similar symptoms, things can be vastly different from person to person. What is really fantastic about the access controller is that it offers something vastly different. The Xbox adaptive controller is more of a hub. I refer to it as a hub as well. Like, you can plug in the things to it, whereas Grant's already said it perfectly, that the PlayStation access controller is a controller. One of the big pros of it is that cognitive load, that like, this is so overwhelming, how do I do this, especially if you have limited care time, or if you are unable to have care time, or if you live on your own and you're figuring out a way to set something up. When I was really physically struggling, like just before I was diagnosed and found out what was going on, I lived on my own, and it was a lockdown here in the UK. So I wasn't able to set things up on my own. So the limited time that I had in person with somebody else, I wasn't going to use that to set up a gaming controller. I was going to use it to eat. I was going to use it to take a shower. Like, I wasn't going to use it to set up a gaming controller. That doesn't mean that this isn't meaningful. It just means that, like, when you're in that position where you really have to prioritize, I think something that is really great about the access controller, the PlayStation access controller, is that it is something that is a controller. It's there. Like, you don't have to do endless research. Like, there's such a like, and I'm gonna call it, this is gonna sound really strange, I think, if you haven't either experienced this or supported somebody that you love through it, but like, there is such an emotional drain when you are trying things and you have to like continually research and continually figure it out. So I love the PlayStation Access controller because it is a controller. Like, it's there. You can plug it in and it guides you through the system. With the Xbox adaptive controller, it's far more customizable. But yeah, there's no one option for everybody, but I think it's a fantastic different option. And the more different options that function in completely different ways that we can get, the more likely it is that somebody is going to be able to find something that works for them. The more that like global brands are standing up and being like, disabled people are important. like, hey, we're a household name and we've decided that this is important. So I think there's something there as well. Sorry, I've just TED talked at you, but
No, that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. You got some very good notes there. So, Dynamic, I wanted to sort of adapt this question to you because, like you said, you haven't used the adaptive controller. So, for you, why is the Axis control at least a little bit more compatible with your setup than the adaptive controller would have been?
So, I actually do have like the base for the Xbox adaptive controller. It's in my closet. I like pulled it out. I was like, okay, this is too big and this is too much, and just put it back in the closet. But the PlayStation controller works better for me because y'all can't see my streaming setup right now. Like my camera is on it, and but I have very limited space. Like just the base for the Xbox controller would be a lot for me to like sit here and work with and do while I'm streaming or gaming. So the size of the Access controller is good. The marriage of the PS5 and the controller in itself, what you can do in the software is good for me. Like being able to press a button once and the controller just holds the button for you. Oh my god. Lifesaver. It's those things that are helpful for me personally. The less I have to stretch my fingers out, like I said before previously, the better. So it works really well on that regard.
Cool. So we kind of had talked about this a little bit already, but I do have to ask the question, and this is for anyone here to just jump in with a sort of with an answer. The title of this video is obviously PlayStation Access Controller versus Xbox Adaptive Controller. Which is better? So the question I want to ask is: are they like which is better, or are they like what is the answer to that question?
You can't ask that question because they're two separate devices.
Right.
They have two different functions. They have two different like needs. They have two different like audiences even. It's not really fair. Not you. I mean, I know it's not you. It's not really fair. Yeah. How dare you? How dare you? It's not really fair for the industry to compare the two and ask that question because it's not, you can't compare them. One is a controller that is a controller. The other is a fully customizable hub. You just can't compare them. There's a difference with functionality. There's a difference with size. There's a difference with price. If you want a full Xbox adaptive setup, it can cost you well over $300. My setup is roughly $360, if not $400 at this point. Whereas the PlayStation controller, $90, and you have access to 9 buttons right out of the box. My hope for this device is that the industry understands that the disabled experience is not one-dimensional, and you're going to need multiple tools for every disabled player. So rather than put a gun to their head and be like, which one's better? Answer the question. I think we should instead frame it like, this works for this group of people. This works for this group of people. What else do we need? And how do we innovate on that?
Like, I think what this controller highlights beautifully is what can happen when you marry good physical design with the software of game development, of console, all that kinds of stuff. And I feel like disability is a monolith. So the more that they continue this research and the more that they learn about different types of disabilities and what works, the more that they can say, oh, we can take a little bit from the Xbox project and we can take a little bit from the Access controller project and we can create something totally new that also works for this set of people. If we stop comparing and competing with each other, we can do great things.
And the main reason why I asked this question is also to basically help prove that, console wars are just a joke. And it's not Xbox versus PlayStation in this regard, because as the saying goes, when everybody can be able to play, we all wins. It doesn't matter what platform y'all are on. It just is, Kolo, as you said perfectly, like if there's whichever is better for you, that's the setup. That's the best. And I think Dynamic, you said it's so perfect. What was the phrase that you said?
When we stop competing with each other, we can do great things.
We stop competing, we can do great things. Yeah, I love that. And then Grant, you said it's like, yeah, it's 100%. It's like one is a hub, one is a controller. You can't compare the two. You really like in they both do different things for the audience that it has. And we also have to take the context of the adaptive controller came out in 2018 when there was no official a controller. Like there were some DIY, there were some other third parties, but there was no, from the big three, no real official controller. And it was the first time we saw a big company like that kind of putting all their money where their mouth is and literally make a Super Bowl commercial for the adaptive controller. So and then we're seeing the evolution of that into what PlayStation is doing. It's not to say that PlayStation is now better than Xbox. No, they both do they both do what they're designed to do, and that makes games more accessible to disabled players. And that's the takeaway from that. So take that, console warriors. Final thoughts. Would you, for PlayStation players, for PlayStation or disabled PlayStation players, would you think that this would be a good sort of a setup to be able to look into getting for being able to play on a PlayStation 5? Kolo, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I feel like this is a cop-out, Steve, but I gotta tell you, it depends. I think if you've got to the end of this video and you're wondering if you should use it, I hope that by hearing like 3 completely different perspectives on like how we game and what works for the 3 of us and how we are using it, maybe that will help you decide. But I think it depends what the barriers are to gaming. But I think if you've put off going for or trialing the Xbox adaptive controller because it's just a lot to like process and think about and figure out, then this might be easier for you. This might be easier to access.
Cool. Dynamic, what about you? What are your sort of concluding thoughts to specific, like let's say the GameSpot audience?
So I'm gonna say the same thing that I say in every accessibility review that I ever do, every video. If you can try it, try it. If you're disabled, like I know that spending money on these things like is a lot for us. A lot of us are on fixed income and all these other things. So buying something like this when you're not sure if it's gonna work is a big leap. But if you're hearing all of our perspectives and you think that this might work for you and you're able to try it, go out and try it. But also, I'm not saying that this is the magic key to fix everything. Like I have dexterity issues in my right side most of the time. So I've been using the access controller very much like one-handed and with the DualSense, and it works very well. So if you're feeling the need to try it, try it. But I'm not saying it's a magic fix-all for anything. Use what works for you.
Cool.
That's what's important.
Amazing. Grant, what are you telling the IGN audience?
If you're a physically disabled player, it's a necessity, but not because it's great, but because it's the only option we have. And until there's more on the market, the access controller is what we use. It's good, it's just it wasn't designed for people like me with limited reach and limited strength and atrophied hands. And so if you're a disabled player like me, you can use it, but you're going to have limitations. But again, there's nothing else out there. So if you run a PlayStation, be aware that you can use this device, but you're not going to be able to fully use it.
So for you, it's good, but could be better.
It's good. It's a solid 7.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
See, this is why I love you guys so much, because I just throw out the question and it's a complete softball and you just knock it out of the park, all three of you. This is great. Thank you three so very much for your amazing perspectives on this Access controller. I really do appreciate it, and I'll make sure to have everyone's social information in the description down below, and also for both coverage on GameSpot and IGN, and also Kolo, your Twitch stream as well. So. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you so much to Grant, Kolo, and Dynamic Reacts for joining me in this video. Links to follow them and also check out Grant's review on IGN and Dynamic Reacts review on GameSpot. They will be linked in the description down below. If you got this far, I know it's a long video, but thank you so much for watching. Again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you want to be able to see more of my videos. And if you want to help financially support me directly with more accessibility work, especially going into 2024, make sure you check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Steve Saylor. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I remain obediently yours. Bye-bye.